Well, I suppose one of the main... This is a very difficult question for me. I'm not actually sure what made me want to write it. I think probably the answer is I wanted to see if I could. It was a personal challenge. The things that are in it are things I feel are going to be useful for teachers. But putting them into a book is another thing, and it's a big learning experience. And I think probably that's what I wanted as well.
Okay, so your inspiration is obviously professional development, is that right? And was this a way of getting all your ideas together about? Like, did it help you crystallize your own understanding of professional development?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I've been doing for 20 years. That's what all teachers are doing. We're always developing and changing. Sometimes more than other phases of our career, but it was a kind of... It helped me pull that together. And also the work I've been doing with other teachers, because in the school I work, sometimes I see other teachers develop and I try and help and encourage them to develop. So I'm coming at it from two ways, I suppose. Helping other people and helping myself. That is a very good question, and I had to think about this, and I kind of made a case for all 5 circles. I think it possibly depends on the teacher. In the book, I argue that as you move out in the circles, as you start with yourself and you move out and you end up with the widest community, which is your profession, that things become more difficult when you have to interact with other people. I think it's harder to collaborate and to work with colleagues and schools than it is to do something on your own. Just on a practical level. If you want to get some feedback from your student or try out a new idea, you just do it. Maybe you need the cooperation of your students, but it's pretty easy to set up on a practical level. If you want your school to change the course book, or you want to give a talk at a conference, or you want to influence your government or something like that, that's a big job, and it requires communication skills and a lot of patience. So I think that's more difficult. Because that's an area where I thought I could supply something that I hadn't seen in other books. The idea in a lot of teacher development literature is collaborate, do things with your school, be proactive, but it doesn't always explain to people how. And it's actually very, very difficult to listen to people, to cooperate, to compromise, and to push your ideas through. And these kind of skills are leadership skills, really. And I think those are really important skills for teachers, especially if they want to develop their career, because it helps them to manage their development. And so there are activities in the book, and I think that's what's slightly original about it. There are activities about leadership, about time management, about how to communicate with colleagues, what to say, what not to say, where to talk to them, the kind of ways you can talk to people. It's not just about what you're kind of...
Well, I'd say it's very original about your book. I don't think I've seen any other resources that have put it together like that.
That's the answer to the first question. We got there in the end. The people I speak to come to these conferences, and I myself have felt they're a fantastic sort of source of stimulation. You get ideas and motivated. I don't think they have perhaps it may not have a profound effect on how we change as teachers, or certainly not a very noticeable one. I think the things that perhaps change us are more at the ground level, like changing a job or a new challenge. That's what really changes us, or a project we have to do, or a responsibility. So a conference, in a way, is quite a relaxing release from responsibility, and it's a chance to step back and see how we fit in to the profession. But I go back very refreshed and invigorated, and I feel better about being a teacher. I don't think my students notice the next day. I don't rush in and say, they don't say, oh, he's been to a conference, he's teaching us completely differently. But those ideas kind of seep into what I do. But I think I go back with more of a spring in my step, because I feel I'm part of a community. I'm not just on my own doing stuff. I meet people who think similar things to me, and people who think different things, and that's interesting. And maybe one of the most interesting things is the international dimension. I mean, most of us work in a country, in a culture, and you come here, and we were just talking on the stool to a guy from Burma, Myanmar, Myanmar, sorry, there we are.
It's like not Maya too.
I learned the names of countries here.
Good for geography.
I think that's a great experience as well. Aside from teaching, it's just a great cultural experience.
Yeah.
They're all useful. No, I think different people will find different things useful. My thought on this is probably the area that people keep coming back to is getting feedback from students, really, and that's in the second circle, me and my students. And when we think about it, the nitty-gritty of teaching is all about that. It's actually you and your students. That's actually more important than what your colleagues think of you or what you think of yourself. If they're the people learning, that's where your impact is greatest. And there are several activities. There's a page of activities called 4 Quick Feedback, which I can't remember what it's called exactly. Anyway, they're 4 quick feedback ideas, and they're very, very simple ideas. You can do them in sort of 5 seconds in your class, not literally, but and as you say, that's the kickstart, because as a teacher I think, I must get some feedback from my students. Somehow days turn into months and years, and I have never really got them. And a year goes by and I don't really know what they thought of the classes.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very simple, like just say stop them for 5 minutes and ask them, or, and there are a few little pro formas or questions or ideas like this. And, you know, I think that can have a huge impact.
Well, I think also having these kinds of activities can give people the, I don't know, the external courage to do it, that it is out there. I'm not some strange person who wants that feedback. Well, exactly. You know, because not every teacher is comfortable. They find that a scary experience. So I think that's also really supportive.
It does, because people think it's in a book, it must be okay.
Exactly.
How little they know.
The printed word. The printed word.
It still has some status.
It does, absolutely.
The important thing, I think, is empowerment, really. I think teachers need to come, it's the whole culture of the school, really. Maybe it's not just about what are we going to do about teacher development or teacher training, it's how are we as a school? How does the school listen to its students? How does it listen to its teachers? I went to an interesting talk yesterday where someone was talking about the culture in schools, and he was saying that you know, the key is empowerment. The teachers really should be interviewing the school. What are you going to do for me?
Go ahead.
And I think, do you want to go through it? Go ahead.
We know.
Gives me time to think. So I think a teacher, you want to create an environment, basically. I don't think you need to create schemes necessarily. You can prompt people, suggest things, and invite them, but the idea of formalised, here's a programme of workshops, you must do this, you must go to a conference, you must give me, is very top-down. And I think the most successful teacher development is bottom-up, where teachers feel comfortable to take risks. Like you say, the boss won't tell me off if I get some feedback from my students or I try this idea out. They need to feel comfortable and engaged and enthusiastic about trying things out. And a school can help by giving people little responsibilities or inviting them to do things. I think that's a great thing. You know, would you like to talk to people about this, or would you like to start a blog about the other? But in the end, if it's imposed, people don't have ownership, and teachers want to own things, and they want to feel it's theirs. Just like the way they adapt materials, people don't like just following what they've been told. They want to kind of create it themselves. So I don't know. That's a long answer to that question, but I think it's quite difficult. But it's creating an atmosphere.